Hey, little something about pronation, volume work, and rehab. You know that we have people like John Prasink and Khaled, which are naturally very talented in arm wrestling, and they both happen to be mechanics. And what mechanics do is lots of this kind of movement, I would think. And in doing so, they naturally train their pronators. Or at least they get volume on the pronator. I don't think they do not get any kind of progressive overload, which would happen with intentional training. But they nevertheless get volume. So that's why it might be wise if you would have some kind of way to implement volume to pronator and supinator. Pronator and supination training, and which would somehow mimic the volume training which happens in mechanical work, which is kind of like this. And I would think that if you are using this kind of wrenches to tighten bolts and such, the resistance which comes from tightening those bolts is frictional resistance, similarly to the pulling the rope, meaning that it's not returning pull. Like if you have a weight and you lift it, the weight tries to return to the floor. But with friction resistance, if you pull it, it stops when you stop. It isn't returning to where you pulled it. So here I have built a little setup in which you could simulate this kind of wrench use, and which you can easily put train on some other days in the week where you are not training your pronator in the progressive overload manner. So here I have the pronator handle, like this type of handle, which you can use to train pronator and supination. And then I have just, instead of putting the weight so that it tries to turn the handle, it's just hanging here like so, with the martial art belt. The belt is tied to the weight, and the belt creates resistance, friction to this. It tries to prevent it from turning. And there is then this lock here which prevents this martial art belt from coming off from this handle. So how you just use this is just doing this. So you can just have some kind of session in your exercise routine, and you do this. Also, if you have some kind of tendonitis or some kind of inflammation in your pronator area here, this might also help on that, since it's recommended to do long sets, lots of low effort repetitions. Like if you have injuries like that, this can also be considered rehab for those areas. And with this you are getting the pronator and supination also, both. Like with this you get the pronator, and then to this you get the supination. So, like example, if you have 3 days you work out, you could just, and in one of those days you do the actual pronation exercises. You could 2 other days just do this, add this to the other exercises you are doing on that days, and have some rehab training on the side for the pronator, or some volume. Like volume training is big part of lots of strength training programs. So it's good to have some kind of volume work also there, or some kind of activation of the muscle on the days which are not the main work days. So this kind of setup. This is very similar to the rope pulling. Of course, in the rope pulling, there is a little bit of pronation, since if you are taking the rope and doing this, there is pronation in it. But this is just more targeted, isolated way of training the pronation and supination together, which is inspired by the mechanics, this French work. Like, since these people who are naturally talented, both Prosink and Khaled, since they both are mechanics, there might be something in it, having this lots of volume from this kind of action. I don't know how much actually these people do it. They might do it occasionally, but occasionally is still better than nothing. So you could do this occasionally, like once a week. Get a good activation on this muscle other than doing some max weights. Yeah, this kind of thing. Rope pulling machine for pronation and supination, if you like. Yeah. That's it. Bye.